Tucked along the Adriatic and Ionian coasts of southeastern Europe lies one of the continent's most overlooked and underrated countries. Albania is a small but striking nation, with a population of approximately 2.8 million people, bordered by Montenegro to the north, Kosovo and North Macedonia to the east, and Greece to the south. Despite its modest size, covering just 28,748 square kilometers, Albania offers an extraordinary combination of rugged mountain landscapes, pristine beaches, ancient history, and a culture that has survived centuries of invasion, isolation, and transformation, unlike almost anywhere else in Europe. For much of the 20th century, Albania was completely sealed off from the rest of the world. From 1944 to 1991, the country was governed under one of the most extreme communist regimes in history, led by Enver Hoxha. During this period, Albania had no diplomatic relations with either the United States or the Soviet Union, making it arguably the most isolated nation on Earth at the time. Religion was banned entirely. Private property was abolished. Albanians were forbidden from traveling abroad. To enforce this isolation, Hoxha constructed over 170,000 concrete bunkers across the country, one for roughly every 12 citizens, as defense against an invasion he was convinced was coming. Today, these bunkers remain scattered across Albanian hillsides, beaches, and roadsides, a strange and permanent reminder of a regime that shaped everything about modern Albania.
When communism collapsed in 1991, Albania transitioned rapidly and chaotically into a market economy. The 1990s were turbulent. A nationwide financial pyramid scheme collapsed in 1997, wiping out the savings of hundreds of thousands of families and triggering a brief civil war. But the country stabilized, and over the past 2 decades, Albania has undergone a remarkable transformation. It joined NATO in 2009 and is currently a candidate for European Union membership, a status that has accelerated reforms across its legal system, economy, and infrastructure. The capital city is Tirana, home to around 800,000 people, which makes it by far the largest urban center in the country. Tirana today is a city in rapid transition. Its center is colorful. Literally, former Prime Minister Edi Rama, himself a painter before entering politics, oversaw a campaign in the early 2000s to paint the city's drab, communist-era buildings in vivid colors, transforming what had been a gray, uniform cityscape into something genuinely striking. The central Skanderbeg Square, named after Albania's 15th-century national hero, is one of the most spacious and well-maintained public squares in the Balkans. Surrounding it are the National History Museum, the Ethem Bey Mosque, and the Clock Tower, giving the square a layered architectural character that reflects Albania's mixed Ottoman, communist, and modern influences. Walking through Tirana, you will notice a city that feels younger and more energetic than its post-communist reputation might suggest. The cafe culture is strong. Young Albanians are well-dressed, well-groomed, and extraordinarily social. The Blloku district, once a restricted area reserved exclusively for Communist Party elites during the Hoxha era, is now the city's most fashionable neighborhood, filled with restaurants, bars, boutiques, and nightlife venues. It is a deliberately symbolic transformation. The most exclusive district of the old regime is now the most open and vibrant corner of the new one. Albania uses the Albanian lek as its currency. €1 currently equals approximately 100 lek, making the country remarkably affordable by European standards. A meal at a local restaurant will typically cost between €5 and €10. A coffee costs less than €1. Monthly rent for a comfortable apartment in central Tirana ranges between €400 and €600, while outside the capital you can find accommodation for significantly less. For Western Europeans and Americans visiting or relocating, Albania offers one of the lowest costs of living on the continent while maintaining a quality of life that has improved substantially over the past decade. It is worth noting that Albania has become increasingly popular among digital nomads and remote workers for precisely this reason. Albania's economy has grown steadily in recent years, driven primarily by tourism, remittances from the large Albanian diaspora abroad, and a growing services sector. Approximately 1.5 million Albanians live outside the country, a significant proportion relative to the total population. And the money they send home represents a crucial pillar of the domestic economy. Tourism has exploded since the early 2010s. The Albanian Riviera, a stretch of coastline along the Ionian Sea in the south, has become one of Europe's most talked-about emerging destinations. Towns like Saranda, Himara, and Ksamil offer crystal-clear turquoise waters, dramatically steep cliffs, and beaches that rival those of Greece or Croatia at a fraction of the cost. Ksamil in particular, with its small islands visible just offshore and its extraordinarily clear shallow water, has earned comparisons to the Caribbean that are not entirely undeserved. Beyond the coast, Albania's interior reveals a country of surprising natural diversity. The Albanian Alps in the north, known locally as the Accursed Mountains, are among the most dramatic mountain landscapes in Europe. The Valbona Valley and the Theth region attract trekkers and hikers from across the continent, offering trails through remote villages that, in some cases, have changed very little over centuries. Lake Ohrid, shared with North Macedonia, is one of Europe's oldest and deepest lakes, a UNESCO World Heritage Site of exceptional ecological significance. In the south, the ancient city of Butrint, a remarkably well-preserved archaeological site with Greek, Roman, Byzantine, and Venetian layers of history, offers a window into the extraordinary depth of civilization in this part of the world. Albanian cuisine reflects the country's geographic and cultural position at the intersection of Mediterranean, Balkan, and Ottoman influences. Lamb and veal are central to the diet. Bajrak, a flaky pastry filled with cheese, spinach, or meat, is ubiquitous and cheap. Firgesa, a baked dish of peppers, tomatoes, and cottage cheese, is considered a national specialty. Olive oil, fresh vegetables, and grilled meats dominate restaurant menus. Albanian coffee culture rivals that of Italy, with strong espresso consumed at all hours of the day as a social ritual rather than simply a caffeine delivery mechanism. One aspect of Albania that visitors consistently remark upon is the warmth and hospitality of its people. The Albanian concept of besa, a word meaning roughly a pledge of honor, a sacred promise of protection extended to guests, is deeply embedded in traditional Albanian culture. Historically, Besa obligated Albanians to protect even their enemies if they came to them seeking shelter. While this ancient code of Highland honor culture has evolved in the modern context, a genuine spirit of hospitality toward visitors remains a defining characteristic of Albanian society. Foreigners traveling through Albania frequently report being invited into homes, offered food and coffee by strangers, and assisted with directions or problems without any expectation of payment or reciprocity. Regarding the people of Albania, it would be difficult to discuss the country's growing appeal without acknowledging what travelers consistently observe. Albanians, particularly in the younger generation, are notably well-presented and physically striking. The genetic heritage of the Albanian people, believed to descend from the ancient Illyrians who inhabited the Balkans long before Slavic migrations, contributes to a physical type that is distinctly Mediterranean in character. Albanian women in particular have gained a reputation across the Balkans and beyond for their appearance, with dark features, strong bone structure, and an elegance in presentation that reflects a culture that takes personal grooming and dress very seriously regardless of income level. It is also worth noting that Albania has made significant strides in gender equality and women's participation in public life, particularly compared to its regional neighbors. Women are visible across professional sectors in Tirana and other cities, and younger generations of Albanian women are among the most highly educated in the country, with university enrollment rates for women now exceeding those of men. Like any country in transition, Albania carries genuine challenges alongside its considerable appeal. Corruption remains a serious issue, despite ongoing EU-driven reforms of the judiciary and public administration. Organized crime networks, while less visible to the ordinary tourist, have historically operated extensively in the country and continue to pose a challenge to governance. Infrastructure outside the major cities and the main tourist routes remains underdeveloped in places, with road quality varying considerably depending on the region. Emigration continues to drain talent and working-age population from rural areas, leaving some interior regions noticeably depopulated and aging. For those considering visiting or relocating, citizens of most countries can enter Albania visa-free for stays of up to 90 days. The country does not require a Schengen visa separately, as it operates its own entry system, and it is in fact possible to enter Albania from Greece or North Macedonia without re-entering Schengen territory. The official language is Albanian, a language isolate with no close relatives among other European languages, descended from ancient Illyrian. English proficiency among young Albanians in the cities is generally good, and Italian is widely understood, a legacy of decades of Italian television broadcasts received across the Adriatic during the communist period, when outside media represented the only window into the outside world. Albania is a country that surprises almost everyone who visits it. Its beauty is real, both the natural landscapes and the people who inhabit them. Its history is complex and at times dark, but it has produced a culture with a distinct identity and a resilience that is difficult not to admire. It is not yet polished in the way that its Mediterranean neighbors have been polished by decades of mass tourism, and that is precisely its appeal. If you arrive expecting Croatia or Greece, you will be surprised. If you arrive open to something genuinely different, rawer, warmer, and considerably less expensive, Albania may well be one of the most rewarding destinations in Europe. This brings us to the end of the video. See you in the next one. Goodbye.